to Storytime with Herbal Roots zine. I'm Kristine Brown, and today I'm going to read to you a story I wrote for Herbal Roots zine from issue number 86, Flourishing Forsythia. Are you familiar with this vibrant spring bloomer? Popular for landscaping, Forsythia is more than just a pretty flowering shrub. In traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM, Forsythia suspensa is used and considered to be one of the 50 fundamental herbs in TCM. The plants we are familiar with are another species called Forsythia x intermedia. Those are the ones you often see around homes and landscaping. Commonly used for a remedy for colds and influenza to fight off a variety of bacteria, and as an antifungal, Forsythia is a great herb to have on hand. Traditionally, the fruits are used for medicine, but the flowers and the leaves can also be utilized. The flowers are very pretty candied and often used to decorate cakes and cookies. If you have Forsythia growing in your yard, you probably have seen how this springtime blooming shrub has a tendency to droop over and plant roots wherever his branches touch the ground, creating a new plant. Once upon a time, this caused a lot of problems for other plants. Today's story is Forsythia Learns to Share, and it explains how Forsythia learned to not take over the area that he was growing in. A long time ago, there lived a bush that was not very pretty. His branches were long and often sprawling, leaning over to touch the ground, where roots would spring up and start a new bush. He had basic green leaves and a tendency to take over wherever he was. The other plants did not appreciate his boisterousness. They often complained at how he took over an area, leaving them with nowhere to grow and flourish. The plants began to complain amongst themselves. Why does he get all the space? Why can't we ever get enough room to spread out? Finally, one day the other plants couldn't take it anymore and complained to Mother Earth. Mother Earth, isn't there something you can do? Forsythia is hogging all the space and we have nowhere to go. Mother Earth glanced over to where Forsythia was. Indeed, he had taken up the entire area. Perhaps if I give him medicinal powers, the people will come and harvest him, she mused. So she gave medicinal powers to his leaves and visited the people in their dream world to tell them about Forsythia's new powers. She asked Forsythia to make room for other plants, and he agreed to shrink back. Soon, the people started harvesting the leaves. But this was not good enough. Forsythia, emboldened by his new powers, started growing taller and taller, reaching up to where the trees were, in addition to the distance he spread out. The plants began to complain again amongst themselves. Why does he get all the space? Why can't we ever get enough room to spread up? Finally, one day, the other plants couldn't take it anymore and complained to Mother Earth. Mother Earth, isn't there something you can do? Forsythia is hogging all the space, and now the trees have nowhere to grow. Mother Earth, again, glanced over to where Forsythia was. Indeed, he had taken up the entire tree space as well. Perhaps if I give him more medicinal powers, the people will come and harvest him, she mused. So she gave medicinal powers to his fruits and visited the people in their dream world to tell them of Forsythia's new powers. She asked Forsythia to make room for the other plants, and again he agreed to shrink back. Soon the people came to harvest the fruits, but they could not find them as they were so small. So Forsythia began enlarging his fruits until they were the size of badgers hanging from his branches. The animals began to complain again amongst themselves. Why does this bush take up all the space? Why can't we walk through the forest anymore? Finally, one day, the animals couldn't take it anymore and complained to Mother Earth. Mother Earth, isn't there something you can do? Forsythia is hogging all the space and we have nowhere to go. Mother Earth glanced over to where Forsythia was. Indeed, he had taken up the paths and the areas for the animals. Well, I see giving him more uses has not made him humble. It's time to call in my good friend Thunderbolt. And with that, she went off to talk with Thunderbolt. A few days later, a storm brewed up. The sky darkened as the thunder clouds rolled in. The animals ran for shelter and the plants all braced themselves. Only Forsythia seemed oblivious to the thunder clouds as he stretched and reached up to take up as much space as he desired. His fruits dragging the ground, knocking down a water deer that was trying to find shelter. "Ho ho, out of my way, chum," Forsythia said to the frightened water deer. "You are in my way." The frightened deer furiously untangled himself from the Forsythia to escape the coming storm. The rain started to fall and thunder rumbled overhead. A giant thunderbolt flashed from the clouds and smashed into Forsythia. Kapow! Sparks flew everywhere. Forsythia's branches were singed to the ground, and his fruits exploded from the impact. All that was left was a stub of where his main branches had grown before. The plants and the animals cheered, happy that they could now move in the forest again. Mother Earth knelt down next to Forsythia. "My dear," she said, "will you promise now to let others grow and move through the forest too?" Humbled, Forsythia agreed to share the space with others. As a reminder, in the early spring, before any leaves emerged on any of the plants, Forsythia's once plain flowers began to blossom, a bright yellow flash of lightning, to remind him to mind his space. And from then on, Forsythia's branches and fruits stayed a respectable size. Although sometimes Forsythia forgets and still spreads out a bit too much. I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you'd like to learn more about Forsythia, you can find the Forsythia ebook in my shop. I'll put a link in the description below. Thanks for visiting Herbal Roots Zine for Storytime, and I'll see you next time.